Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive into the mysteries that shape our existence. Tonight, we turn our gaze inward and outward to explore a fascinating crossroads, the ancient contemplative path of Buddhism and the dynamic, ever-unfolding story of biological evolution. How do these two profound frameworks for understanding the universe resonate with one another? And what breathtaking insights emerge when they converge? Settle in, perhaps with a warm drink, as we unravel this intricate tapestry of thought. Before we fully immerse, do take a moment to gently tap that like button, share this journey with a friend, and subscribe to keep these explorations alive. Now, let's begin our journey. From the smallest tremor of a subatomic particle to the grand, sweeping arcs of galaxies in motion, the universe is a symphony of constant change. And within this ceaseless flow, life itself is perhaps the most eloquent testament to transformation. We often perceive science and ancient philosophy as distinct, even opposing forces. Yet, when we turn our gaze to the profound and ancient wisdom of Buddhist thought, we discover a fascinating, often overlooked harmony with the very mechanisms of evolution. For centuries, the human mind has grappled with the question of our origins, the genesis of life, and the vast, unfolding narrative of the cosmos. Science, with its empirical lens and relentless pursuit of evidence, has offered us theories like evolution by natural selection, a grand story of adaptation, diversification, and the relentless march of life across billions of years. But where does a philosophy as ancient and deeply introspective as Buddhism fit into this picture? The answer, as we shall explore, is surprisingly resonant. Buddhism, at its core, is a path to liberation, a framework for understanding suffering and cultivating inner peace. It is less concerned with a precise, literal recounting of cosmic creation and more focused on the nature of existence, the interconnectedness of all phenomena, and the impermanence that defines every moment. This fundamental orientation has allowed Buddhist thought to approach scientific discoveries, particularly those concerning the origin and development of life, with an openness that often surprises those accustomed to more rigid theological frameworks. Imagine, if you will, the deep, rhythmic breath of the universe itself. In Buddhist philosophy, this breath is manifest in the ceaseless dance of cause and effect, the principle of dependent origination. Nothing arises in isolation. Every phenomenon is inextricably linked to countless others, a vast, intricate web of conditions that bring things into being, sustain them, and eventually lead to their dissolution. Does this not sound remarkably similar to the complex interplay of genes, environment, and chance that drives the evolutionary process? Indeed, many Buddhist scholars and teachers today find deep resonance between the concepts of impermanence, anicca, and the ever-changing nature of living forms. From the cellular level to the grand sweep of species diversification, life is a continuous process of arising, transforming, and ceasing. The notion of a fixed, unchanging entity, whether an individual self or a species, is fundamentally at odds with Buddhist teachings. Instead, everything is in a state of flux, a dynamic unfolding, much like the branches of the evolutionary tree, constantly growing, adapting, and branching into new forms. One of the most compelling insights into this compatibility can be found in some of the earliest Buddhist texts. Consider the Agana Sutta, a discourse from the Nikaya in the ancient Pali Canon. In this profound narrative, the Buddha describes a long, cyclical process of world contraction and expansion. Beings at first luminous and mind-made, gradually evolve, becoming more material, more intimately connected to the earth. Now, it's crucial to understand that ancient texts, particularly those dealing with cosmology, are often metaphorical, layered with symbolic meaning intended to convey deeper truths. But even when read allegorically, the Agana Sutta offers a powerful conceptualization of progressive transformation, a vision of life and environment undergoing profound change over immense spans of time. This ancient text, while not a scientific treatise in the modern sense, subtly but powerfully emphasizes moral and spiritual qualities over rigid social hierarchies or inherent status. It illustrates that true value, the essence of being, is defined not by birth or material possessions, but by ethical conduct and wisdom. This emphasis on internal transformation and the interconnectedness of all beings lays a philosophical groundwork that can readily accommodate the biological transformation described by evolution. The underlying principles of change and causality, so central to Buddhist philosophy, align beautifully with the scientific understanding that living forms emerge, adapt, and eventually cease due to a confluence of interdependent causes. Now, it would be disingenuous to suggest that all Buddhist traditions or all practitioners interpret these ancient narratives through a purely scientific lens. Just as in any diverse spiritual tradition, there are nuances and varying perspectives. Some, particularly those who adhere to a more literal interpretation of traditional cosmological narratives, might find themselves at odds with evolutionary theory. These traditional narratives often describe a structured universe with multiple realms of existence, including the central Mount Meru, and detailed accounts of the world's origin and the various forms of life within it. The 6 realms of existence, gods, demigods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings, are central to this cosmology. While many modern Buddhists view these realms metaphorically as states of mind or psychological conditions, some traditions interpret them as literal places where beings are reborn based on their karma. For these groups, the detailed accounts of creation and the cyclical nature of the universe, as understood literally, can sometimes appear incompatible with the gradual development of life forms over vast stretches of time proposed by evolution. These differing interpretations raise fascinating questions about the nature of reality, the role of myth in religious practice, and the ongoing tension between ancient beliefs and modern scientific understanding. However, for the majority of Buddhist thought, the compatibility with evolution is not just present, but often celebrated. This acceptance stems from a deeper philosophical stance within Buddhism, one that actively discourages metaphysical speculation that does not directly lead to the alleviation of suffering. The Buddha himself, it is said, listed cosmological questions about the origin or eternity of the universe among the 14 unanswerable questions, the Avyakata. His pragmatic focus was always on liberation, on understanding the mechanisms of suffering and the path to freedom, rather than engaging in speculative metaphysics about ultimate origins. Consider the famous parable of the poisoned arrow. Imagine someone struck by a poisoned arrow. Their friends and family rush to find a doctor, ready to remove the deadly shaft. But the injured person insists, "I will not have this arrow taken out until I know who shot it, what kind of bow was used in the material of the arrowhead." The Buddha's point, stark and clear, is that such a person would die before their questions were answered. The urgent task is to remove the arrow, to alleviate the immediate suffering. This pragmatic attitude is a cornerstone of Buddhist thought and a profound reason why it generally embraces evolutionary theory without deep doctrinal conflict. The why and how of ultimate origins, while intriguing, are less critical than understanding the present moment and the path to freedom from suffering. Historically, Buddhist scholars from Sri Lanka to Myanmar to Tibet have often demonstrated an openness to engaging with emerging scientific thought. Reformers in the early 20th century, such as Anagarika Dharmapala, were vocal in emphasizing that Buddhism's understanding of natural change was inherently compatible with scientific observations. This historical precedent has paved the way for modern interpretations that seamlessly integrate scientific understanding with core Buddhist principles. Perhaps one of the most eloquent voices in this modern dialogue is His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. In his insightful book, The Universe in a Single Atom, The Convergence of Science and Spirituality, he expresses profound support for evolution. However, he also articulates a philosophical concern, reflecting a common Buddhist perspective regarding random mutation as a complete explanation for the origin of life. He notes, from the Buddhist perspective, the idea of these mutations being random events is deeply unsatisfying for a theory that purports to explain the origin of life. This isn't a rejection of evolution itself, but rather a deeper contemplation informed by Buddhist principles of karma and rebirth. As Donald S. Lopez Jr. wisely observes, these doctrines suggest that consciousness and ethical actions are not merely incidental byproducts, but integral to the unfolding of life itself. In this view, evolution is not solely a blind, mechanistic process driven by pure randomness, but rather a vast, intricate dance within a cosmos imbued with ethical dimensions, where consciousness plays a subtle yet profound role. Similarly, Albert Lowe, a respected Zen Buddhist teacher, while not rejecting evolution, often critiques strict neo-Darwinism and selfish gene theory for what he perceives as an overly materialistic worldview. He advocates for a form of spiritual evolution, where consciousness, ethics, and self-awareness are seen to develop alongside biological life, suggesting a more holistic, integrated view of existence. This perspective highlights a desire to bridge the perceived gap between the material and the spiritual, finding a way for scientific understanding to coexist with the profound inner experiences of awakening and ethical development. The implications of this compatibility extend far beyond mere intellectual discussion. Buddhist engagement with evolution profoundly reinforces ethical responsibility toward all living beings. When we recognize the deep interdependence of all life, as both evolution and Buddhist philosophy teach us, it naturally fosters compassion and the precept of non-harming. Modern Buddhist environmentalists and scientists frequently argue that understanding evolution strengthens our imperative for conservation, deepens our empathy for all species, and cultivates a profound ecological awareness. We are not separate from nature. We are an integral, evolving part of it. The survival of one is inextricably linked to the well-being of all. In many countries with significant Buddhist populations, this harmony is reflected in educational practices. Evolution is often taught alongside religious education without generating conflict. Surveys consistently show that Buddhists exhibit some of the highest acceptance rates of evolution among religious groups, a testament to this inherent compatibility between faith and scientific literacy. This open-mindedness allows for a rich and nuanced dialogue, where scientific understanding enriches spiritual insight and spiritual values provide an ethical framework for scientific advancement. Ultimately, Buddhism's generally positive and open attitude toward evolution has significantly influenced the broader science-religion dialogue. It offers a powerful example of how a profound spiritual tradition can embrace scientific discovery without sacrificing its core principles. The recognition of interdependence, a cornerstone of both evolutionary theory and Buddhist philosophy, serves as a bridge, fostering compassion for all living beings and cultivating a deep, abiding respect for the intricate, evolving tapestry of ecological systems that sustain us all. The unseen harmony between these two profound ways of understanding the world invites us to look deeper, to see the universe not as a collection of separate parts, but as a single, vibrantly evolving whole. Our journey through the confluence of ancient wisdom and modern scientific understanding continues. Last time, we explored the foundational openness within Buddhist philosophy to the concept of evolution, an openness born from a profound focus on liberation rather than dogmatic cosmological assertions. Tonight, we delve deeper into the very texts that hint at these cosmic dances of change, unpacking how ancient Buddhist narratives themselves echo the spirit of an evolving universe and evolving beings. Imagine a universe not static, but breathing, contracting and expanding in vast, immeasurable cycles. This is not a concept born of modern astrophysics, but one deeply woven into the fabric of early Buddhist thought. The Agana Sutta, a revered discourse within the Pali Canon, paints a vivid picture of such a universe. Here, the Buddha describes an almost poetic process of world contraction and expansion, a grand cosmic inhale and exhale. Within these immense cycles, beings themselves undergo a remarkable transformation, evolving from luminous, ethereal forms, mind-made and delicate, into more material, earthbound existences. Scholars today often interpret this narrative not as a literal scientific treatise, but as a profound allegory. It's a story that speaks to a conceptual understanding of progressive transformation, both of life itself and of the very environment that cradles it. The wisdom embedded in this ancient account transcends mere biological change. It emphasizes that moral and spiritual qualities, not social class or material possessions, define true value. It's a testament to the dynamic nature of existence, a narrative hinting at a gradual unfolding, a continuous becoming. Yet, like any deep philosophical tradition, Buddhism is not a monolith. While the overarching tenor is one of compatibility with scientific explanations of human and biological origins, certain traditional cosmological narratives are indeed interpreted literally by some adherents. These interpretations often gravitate towards the intricate, detailed descriptions of the universe found within Buddhist scriptures, particularly the cyclical nature of existence. It's a profound testament to the human search for meaning and order, even when that order might diverge from purely empirical observation. Traditional Buddhist cosmology, for instance, presents a structured universe, replete with multiple realms of existence and the towering, mythical Mount Meru at its center. Texts like the Agana Sutta, which we just touched upon, meticulously outline the origin of the world and the very fabric of society. For some practitioners, these narratives are not metaphors or allegories, but literal accounts of the universe's architecture and the very genesis of life as we know it. Consider the intricate tapestry of the 6 realms of existence, the realms of gods, demigods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings. These realms are central to Buddhist cosmology, defining the various states in which sentient beings can be reborn, a cycle governed by the immutable laws of karma. While many, particularly in contemporary interpretations, view these realms metaphorically, as psychological states or stages of spiritual development, some traditions interpret them as literal places, distinct planes of existence where beings manifest based on their accumulated karma. It is within these literal interpretations that we sometimes find a divergence, where the detailed accounts of creation and the cyclical nature of the universe are viewed as fundamentally incompatible with the concept of evolution, a theory that posits a gradual, organic development of life forms over immense spans of time. This tension between traditional beliefs and modern scientific understandings isn't unique to Buddhism. It's a philosophical consideration that echoes across many faith traditions. It forces us to confront the very nature of reality, the role of myth in religious practice, and how ancient wisdom traditions, often steeped in profound symbolic language, interact with the stark, empirical observations of science. However, the prevailing sentiment within Buddhist thought leans heavily towards compatibility with evolution. The core tenets of Buddhism, impermanence or anicca, dependent origination or pratitya, and non-self or anatta, form a powerful philosophical framework that aligns remarkably well with the understanding that living forms arise, change, and ultimately cease, all due to an intricate web of interdependent causes. Most Buddhists, therefore, find no fundamental conflict with evolutionary theory. In fact, these core principles seem to anticipate and even celebrate the dynamic, ever-changing nature of life itself. It's crucial to remember the Buddha's pragmatic focus. Questions regarding the ultimate origin or eternity of the universe are famously listed among the 14 unanswerable questions, the Avyakata. The Buddha, with profound wisdom, chose not to engage in speculative metaphysics that did not directly lead to the alleviation of suffering. His teachings were a path to liberation, a method for understanding the nature of existence and escaping its inherent dissatisfactions, rather than a cosmic encyclopedia. This pragmatic stance is a powerful reason why Buddhism, as a philosophical system, generally embraces evolutionary theory without doctrinal discord. The focus is on the present moment, on understanding the causes of suffering and the path to freedom, not on definitive answers to unobservable cosmic origins. Historically, this engagement with scientific thought has been a consistent thread. From the scholarly monks in ancient Sri Lanka and Myanmar to the learned lamas of Tibet, Buddhist thinkers have consistently grappled with emerging scientific discoveries. In the early 20th century, reformers like Anagarika Dharmapala championed the idea that Buddhism's understanding of natural change and causality was inherently compatible with scientific observations, a foundational assertion that continues to resonate today. Modern interpretations further solidify this perspective. The 14th Dalai Lama, in his insightful book, The Universe in a Single Atom, The Convergence of Science and Spirituality, openly supports evolution. However, he also articulates a philosophical concern that speaks to the deeper layers of Buddhist thought. He finds the idea of mutations being purely random events as a complete explanation for the origin of life deeply unsatisfying. This isn't a rejection of evolution itself, but a nuanced query into the mechanism. As Donald S. Lopez Jr. notes, Buddhist doctrines of karma and rebirth profoundly influence this perspective, suggesting that consciousness and ethical actions are not mere byproducts, but integral forces in the unfolding tapestry of life. Similarly, Zen Buddhist teacher Albert Lowe offers a critique of strict neo-Darwinism and selfish gene theory, advocating instead for a form of spiritual evolution where consciousness, ethics, and profound awareness develop in tandem with biological life. It's a vision that expands the definition of evolution beyond the purely physical, embracing the spiritual and ethical dimensions of existence. This profound engagement with evolution carries significant ethical and ecological implications. The Buddhist understanding of interdependence, pratitya samutpada, where all phenomena arise in mutual relation, is beautifully mirrored in the ecological understanding of interconnectedness. Recognizing the intricate web of life, the reliance of each species on countless others, reinforces the Buddhist precept of compassion and non-harming towards all living beings. Modern Buddhist environmentalists and scientists passionately argue that understanding evolution deepens our sense of responsibility, fosters empathy for all creatures, and cultivates a vital ecological awareness essential for the stewardship of our planet. It is no surprise, then, that in countries with significant Buddhist populations, the theory of evolution is often taught alongside religious education without conflict. Surveys have consistently shown that Buddhists exhibit some of the highest acceptance rates of evolution among religious groups globally. This is a powerful testament to the inherent compatibility between a profound faith tradition and scientific literacy, demonstrating that a deep spiritual path can not only coexist with, but actively embrace, the wonders revealed by scientific inquiry. The philosophical stance underpinning all of this is elegantly captured in the parable of the poisoned arrow. Imagine someone struck by a poisoned arrow. His friends rush to find a doctor, but the injured man refuses treatment, demanding to know the name of the archer, the type of bow, the material of the arrowhead. By the time these answers, if ever found, are provided, the man would be dead. The Buddha's point is clear. Dwelling on speculative metaphysics that does not directly alleviate suffering is a diversion from the urgent task at hand. This pragmatic, results-oriented attitude is a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy and a key reason why it so readily accepts evolution without doctrinal struggle. The focus is on the how to end suffering, not the how the universe began in a purely physical sense. As Stephen T. Asma aptly emphasizes, the historical Buddha consistently eschewed metaphysical speculations regarding origins, choosing instead to focus on empirical observation and the path to the cessation of suffering. This historical precedent is what many Buddhists today interpret as an open invitation to embrace the sciences, to learn from them, and to integrate their findings into a broader, more comprehensive understanding of reality. The implications of Buddhism's positive attitude toward evolution are far-reaching. It has profoundly influenced the global dialogue between science and religion, particularly in the critical areas of education and environmental ethics. The recognition of interdependence, a shared philosophical bedrock in both evolutionary theory and Buddhist thought, fosters a deep compassion for all living beings and instills a profound respect for the intricate ecological systems that sustain life on Earth. As we conclude this segment, we see how the ancient narratives, far from being rigid dogma, offer a flexible and insightful framework that not only accommodates, but actively encourages a deeper, more holistic understanding of our evolving universe and our place within it. In our last exploration, we gently trace the contours of an ancient wisdom tradition, one that has, for millennia, held a mirror to the ever-shifting nature of existence. We walked the subtle paths where the profound insights of Buddhist philosophy first encountered the meticulous observations of modern science, particularly the grand narrative of evolution. We saw how, at its heart, Buddhism, with its emphasis on impermanence, causality, and the cycles of transformation, seemed to possess a remarkable inherent flexibility, almost an anticipation for the scientific understanding of life's unfolding. Tonight, we delve deeper into this intriguing conversation, venturing into the nuanced perspectives of contemporary Buddhist masters and thinkers. We'll explore how they grapple with the intricate details of evolution, particularly when it comes to concepts that challenge the purely materialistic interpretations of life's origins and progression. What happens when the idea of random chance, so central to some evolutionary theories, brushes against the Buddhist understanding of karma, consciousness, and an unfolding universe guided by intricate causal laws? It's a fascinating junction, a place where the meditative insights of centuries meet the empirical rigor of the present. We've established that the fundamental tenets of change and dependent origination within Buddhism make it remarkably amenable to the broad strokes of evolutionary theory. The concept of life forms arising, transforming, and ceasing due to interdependent causes is a natural fit. And the Buddha himself, as we've discussed, was remarkably pragmatic, often steering away from what he deemed unanswerable questions. Those speculative metaphysical inquiries about the ultimate origin or eternity of the universe that didn't directly lead to the alleviation of suffering. This pragmatic stance, famously illustrated by the parable of the poisoned arrow, is a bedrock of Buddhism's intellectual openness. Why dwell on the precise trajectory of the arrow when the immediate task is to remove it and heal the wound? But even with this broad acceptance, there are depths to plumb. When we speak of modern interpretations, we inevitably encounter voices like His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, a figure revered globally for his compassion and his tireless efforts to bridge ancient wisdom with contemporary thought. In his seminal work, The Universe in a Single Atom, The Convergence of Science and Spirituality, the Dalai Lama articulates a profound support for the scientific theory of evolution. He sees no fundamental conflict with the biological mechanisms of natural selection and adaptation. However, he raises a crucial philosophical query, one that resonates deeply within the Buddhist worldview. He expresses a disquiet, a deep dissatisfaction, with the idea of mutations being purely random events as a complete explanation for the origin and intricate complexity of life. Now, this isn't a rejection of the scientific observation of genetic mutation. Rather, it's a profound questioning of the philosophical implication that randomness alone can account for the emergence of sentience, consciousness, and the moral dimensions of existence. From the Buddhist perspective, the universe is not a chaotic jumble of unrelated incidents. It is a vast, interconnected web of causality where every action, every thought, Every phenomenon arises from a preceding set of conditions. This isn't necessarily a preordained destiny, but rather an intricate tapestry woven by countless threads of cause and effect. The concept of karma, for instance, isn't just about moral retribution. It's a sophisticated framework for understanding how volitional actions, driven by intention, shape future experiences and even future forms of existence. So, when the Dalai Lama speaks of dissatisfaction with pure randomness, he's inviting us to consider a deeper layer of causality, one that might incorporate aspects beyond the purely material. Donald S. Lopez Jr., a prominent scholar of Tibetan Buddhism, elucidates this point beautifully. He suggests that Buddhist doctrines of karma and rebirth are not merely side narratives, but central to this perspective. They imply that consciousness and the ethical actions arising from it are not merely epiphenomena, accidental byproducts of biological processes, but integral, active forces in the unfolding of life itself. This leads us to a fascinating thought experiment. If evolution is indeed the process by which life diversifies and adapts, could there be a parallel spiritual evolution at play? Is it possible that consciousness itself, with its capacity for ethical awareness, compassion, and profound insight, is also undergoing an evolutionary journey? This isn't to suggest a separate, supernatural process, but rather an expansion of our understanding of what constitutes evolutionary forces. Consider the insights of Albert Lowe, a respected Zen Buddhist teacher. He takes this line of questioning further, directly challenging what he perceives as the overly materialistic implications of strict neo-Darwinism and the selfish gene theory. Lowe isn't dismissing genetics or natural selection. Instead, he advocates for a broader, more inclusive understanding of evolution, one where consciousness, ethics, and indeed, awareness itself develop and refine alongside biological life. He posits that our capacity for empathy, our drive for meaning, and our journey towards enlightenment are not simply random byproducts, but perhaps represent the pinnacle of an evolving consciousness. This perspective invites us to reevaluate our definition of fitness. Is it solely about survival and reproduction in a biological sense, or does it also encompass the flourishing of wisdom, compassion, and an ever-deepening connection to the web of life? For Lowe and many contemporary Buddhists, evolution isn't just about the physical form. It's also about the increasing sophistication of the mind, the refinement of our ethical capacities, and the expansion of our empathetic reach. This isn't a retreat into mysticism, but rather an appeal for a more holistic scientific inquiry, one that doesn't reduce consciousness to mere brain chemistry or ethical behavior to purely genetic programming. It's a call to acknowledge that the subjective experience of being, the profound depths of human consciousness, and the intricate dance of cause and effect that underlies karma might indeed be forces that subtly, yet powerfully, influence the long arc of life's unfolding. This kind of dialogue has profound implications, not just for philosophy, but for our very understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe. If consciousness is more than an accident, if our ethical choices resonate beyond individual moments, then our responsibility to the living world takes on a deeper significance. The Buddhist engagement with evolution, especially through these modern interpretations, powerfully reinforces the ethical responsibilities we bear towards all living beings. Recognizing the interdependence of all life, a core tenet of Buddhist philosophy, find a profound echo in the ecological implications of evolutionary theory. We are not isolated entities, but intricately woven into the fabric of life, a fabric shaped by billions of years of shared ancestry and ongoing transformation. This understanding naturally aligns with the fundamental Buddhist precepts of compassion and non-harming. If all beings are interconnected, if we share a common evolutionary heritage, then harming another is, in a very real sense, harming a part of ourselves. This realization fuels the modern Buddhist environmental movement, where scientists and spiritual practitioners alike argue that understanding evolution deepens our sense of conservation, fosters empathy, and cultivates a profound ecological awareness. It transforms the abstract scientific concept of interconnectedness into a lived ethical imperative. In countries where Buddhism is a prominent cultural and spiritual force, this compatibility is often reflected in educational practices. Evolution is frequently taught within the curriculum without inherent conflict with religious education. Surveys consistently show that Buddhist populations often exhibit some of the highest acceptance rates of evolutionary theory among religious groups. This isn't accidental. It's a testament to the philosophical flexibility and the historical pragmatism that we've discussed. It highlights a vital lesson: that faith and scientific literacy are not necessarily antagonists, but can, in fact, be complementary pathways to understanding the universe and our place within it. Ultimately, the Buddhist philosophical stance remains clear. While the details of cosmic and biological origins can be fascinating, the ultimate goal is liberation from suffering. But in engaging with evolution, modern Buddhist masters are not merely tolerating scientific discovery. They are actively seeking to integrate it into a richer, more profound understanding of existence. They are asking us to look beyond the purely material, to consider the potential interplay of consciousness, karma, and causality in shaping the evolutionary journey. They invite us to ponder whether the very urge towards compassion, the drive for wisdom, and the inherent capacity for ethical action might not be just fortunate accidents, but rather the unfolding of deeper evolutionary potentials that point toward the universe far more interconnected, purposeful, and ethically resonant than a purely random unfolding might suggest. It's a vision where our minds, our intentions, and our awareness are not merely observers, but active participants in the grand, ongoing cosmic dance of creation and transformation. And it's this profound thought, this invitation to a more expansive view of evolution, that guides us towards our next inquiry: how this shared understanding can shape our collective future and what role evolution and empathy can play in our planetary stewardship. From the vast, intricate tapestry of cosmic becoming to the subtle, continuous unfolding within each living cell, our journey through the confluence of Buddhist thought and evolutionary science has brought us to a profound juncture. We've explored the echoes of transformation within ancient texts, grappled with modern philosophical concerns, and found a deep resonance where science illuminates the intricate dance of life and Buddhist wisdom offers a compassionate path through it. Now, as we draw this exploration to a close, we turn our gaze toward a shared future, one where the insights of evolution and the enduring ethics of Buddhism converge to forge a path of planetary stewardship, empathy, and collective responsibility. The understanding of evolution, with its relentless narrative of change, adaptation, and interdependence, doesn't just inform us of our biological past. It paints a vivid picture of our present entanglement with every other living thing. We are not just individual beings, but rather fleeting expressions of a continuous, branching lineage that stretches back billions of years. This scientific reality, when viewed through the lens of Buddhist philosophy, deepens our appreciation for the concept of dependent origination, pratitya, the idea that all phenomena arise in dependence upon other phenomena. Every breath we take, every morsel of food we consume, every thought that ripples through our minds is intimately connected to a vast web of causes and conditions, both seen and unseen. Consider the intricate balance of an ecosystem. The towering redwood, its roots plumbing the earth for sustenance, provides shelter for countless creatures. The humble fungi beneath the forest floor decompose fallen leaves, returning vital nutrients to the soil. The predator, in its hunt, prunes the herd, ensuring the vitality of the prey population. Each component, in its specific role, contributes to the flourishing of the whole. Evolution teaches us that this balance is not static, but a dynamic, ever-adjusting dance of adaptation and interaction, driven by the relentless march of natural selection. And yet, within this scientific framework, Buddhist ethics find fertile ground. The precept of non-harming, ahimsa, extends beyond our immediate human interactions to encompass all sentient beings, recognizing their inherent right to exist and thrive within this shared evolutionary journey. Modern Buddhist environmentalists and scientists are increasingly vocal in their assertion that understanding evolution is not merely an intellectual exercise, but a moral imperative. When we grasp the interconnectedness of all life, when we recognize that the destruction of one species diminishes us all, our ethical responsibility expands. The extinction of a rare orchid, the acidification of the oceans, the relentless deforestation of ancient forests, these are not isolated events happening out there. They are wounds inflicted upon the very fabric of existence, wounds that ripple through the evolutionary tapestry, impacting species far removed from the initial trauma, ultimately affecting us all. This recognition of interdependence fosters a profound sense of empathy. It transcends the artificial boundaries we often draw between us and them, between human and non-human, between the present moment and the vast expanse of geological time. When we understand that our biological makeup, our very sentience, is the result of billions of years of evolutionary struggle and adaptation, we develop a deeper respect for the natural processes that gave rise to such incredible diversity. We see the tiger in the jungle, the whale in the ocean, the birds soaring overhead, not as mere objects of study or resources to be exploited, but as fellow travelers on this same evolutionary journey, each with their own unique history and intrinsic value. The Buddhist path to planetary stewardship is not about imposing a rigid dogma upon scientific discovery. Rather, it's about integrating the scientific understanding of how the world is with the ethical wisdom of how we ought to act within it. It's about cultivating a mind that is both empirically informed and deeply compassionate. The Dalai Lama's philosophical concern about random mutation as a complete explanation for life's complexity isn't a rejection of evolution itself, but a call to consider the deeper dimensions of consciousness, intention, and karma. Forces that, from a Buddhist perspective, are integral to the unfolding of existence. It suggests that while biology explains the mechanism of change, Buddhist thought offers a framework for understanding the meaning and moral implications of that change, particularly as it relates to our own agency and actions. In many societies with significant Buddhist populations, this integration is already a lived reality. Evolution is often taught in schools not as a challenge to faith, but as a complementary perspective on the natural world. Surveys consistently show high rates of evolution acceptance among Buddhists, underscoring the remarkable compatibility between scientific literacy and a spiritual tradition that prioritizes direct experience, critical inquiry, and the alleviation of suffering over rigid dogma. This harmonious coexistence offers a powerful model for global dialogue between science and spirituality, particularly in an era marked by increasing ecological fragility and societal division. The parable of the poisoned arrow, which the Buddha so vividly employed, reminds us of the pragmatic heart of Buddhist philosophy. While the vastness of the universe and the intricate dance of evolution can inspire endless speculation, the core focus remains on understanding and alleviating suffering. And in our modern world, much of that suffering is inextricably linked to our relationship with the natural environment. Climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution, these are poisoned arrows that strike at the heart of our collective well-being. To ignore them, to endlessly debate their origins without taking action, is to risk our very existence. The scientific understanding of these ecological crises provides the precise diagnosis, while Buddhist principles of compassion, interconnectedness, and mindful action offer a potent prescription for healing. Our journey through vibing science often takes us to the edges of the known, into the realms of the unimaginably small, and the incomprehensibly vast. We've marveled at the Big Bang, pondered the mysteries of dark matter, and delved into the complex dance of genetics. And now, as we conclude this particular exploration, we find ourselves not at an end, but at a beginning of a shared future, where our scientific understanding of evolution isn't just a fascinating story of the past, but a living, breathing guide for how we navigate the present and shape the future. It calls us to embody empathy, to cultivate a deep respect for all life, and to engage in acts of planetary stewardship, recognizing that our own liberation is intimately bound up with the well-being of the entire evolutionary tapestry. So let us carry this understanding forward, allowing the twin lamps of scientific discovery and spiritual wisdom to illuminate our path. Let us remember that we are all, in a profound and undeniable sense, children of this evolving cosmos, bound together by the same fundamental laws, sharing the same precious home. And in that recognition, may we find the inspiration and the impetus to act, not just for ourselves, but for all beings for all time. The future of this remarkable planet, and indeed, the very trajectory of our own evolution, depends on it. As the cosmic dust settles on tonight's exploration of Buddhism and evolution, I hope this journey through ancient wisdom and modern science has offered a peaceful yet profound understanding of our place in the universe. Your insights and curiosity are the very lifeblood of this channel. If you've enjoyed this narration, please consider leaving a gentle like, sharing it with someone who might find solace or inspiration here, and subscribing to join our community for future voyages. What resonated most with you tonight? And what other grand scientific or philosophical mysteries would you like us to unravel in our next deep dive? Until then, keep observing, keep pondering, and keep vibing with the universe.